just ate some peanuts. The Dark Tower. I got this from a little library, hence the crappy live action cover. I read The Gunslinger. If you're unfamiliar, this is the first book in the Dark Tower series by Stephen King, considered by some, and I think by himself, to be the magnum opus. After 15 pages of foreword and introduction, I got to the actual book. I got my wisdom teeth removed recently, and my brain was like not functioning. Like I was in pain and I was tweaked out, and the books I was reading were a little too dense and I just wasn't feeling it. I wanted some King. I wanted some Stephen King to quell my ailments. This was the only thing I had on my shelf that I hadn't read by the King, and I was like, okay, some backstory. I have almost zero interest in fantasy. I know it's a little blasphemous, but it's just a genre that for some reason eludes me completely. The only reason I read this was because I was craving some Stephen King, and this was all I got. And when I read the introduction, he said he kind of was inspired by The Good, the Bad, the Ugly, which if you didn't know, is like a classic Sergio Leone, I forgot his name, but it's like a classic Western, like a Western. And I love Westerns. And now I haven't seen The Good, Bad, the Ugly, but that just got me intrigued. I was like, you know what, let me give it a crack. This book is weird. This book is so weird. This is not like a typical Stephen King book at all. It is a lot more similar to Stephen King dipping his hand into a Faulkner or Cormac McCarthy style, which if you've read Stephen King, you know that Stephen King blending with a Faulknerian kind of almost Melville style is so weird. I'm used to Stephen King having like very almost practical prose, which I enjoy. Like his prose definitely has a time and place, and I love it. This was like strange. Like, this was so strange. It's kind of esoteric. It has these weird descriptions, these archaic words he just throws in there. It's not typical Stephen King whatsoever. And what makes it even weirder, I found it to be almost inconsistent. I'm kind of about to go off on a tangent here, so I'm gonna rein it back in to my overall feelings about this book. I thought it was mid. Okay, that sounds harsh. This book is such a mixed bag in my opinion. I genuinely what the crap did I just read? I comprehended it, but what? What is this? He kind of like says in the introduction that like, yeah, this is strange, and it is. This book is composed of 5 parts that are basically 5 short stories, and in my opinion, they all get progressively worse. I still think the book is it's not bad by any means. I still think it's very good, but definitely not King's best. I thought the first story was really good. It had me really intrigued. The writing style, I thought it actually worked for the first story. I really matched the bleak vibe that this beginning of the book has. This book follows Roland Deschain, or Deschain, I don't remember. And he's basically a gunslinger in this otherworldly world, and basically King throws you in the deep end with kind of no idea what's going on. He doesn't explain it. You figure it out through context, and I really enjoy that type of world building. I thought the world was really interesting. The imagery was like, oh, really nice. And then part 2 had me really intrigued too. I was like, dang, this is going in a lot of directions I didn't think it was going to. But everything after part 2, dude, it got progressively not as good to me. It started to slog. The Oracle in the Mountains, it was fine. And then the Slow Mutants I didn't like it. I'm sorry. Part 4 I did not like. The last part I thought was really good. Basically, this whole book is about the gunslinger chasing down the man in black, and along the way, he meets this like little kid. He's like from New York City, but has died, and now he's ended up in this world. The gunslinger is a very calloused man, but he starts to feel compassion towards this kid while he's chasing the man in black. Now, I'm not going to spoil anything. I thought the relationship between the gunslinger and the kid was good. It had its faults where it just didn't work sometimes for me, especially in the middle of the book. I thought the very last 30 pages were really freaking cool. It was super trippy, but I thought it was pretty epic. My big issue with this book is that it has this cool Faulknerian style in the beginning. Everything is depicted so vaguely and textured and coarse and kind of unloving, but it matches the desert that Roland is in the beginning. But as it goes on, it starts to kind of like drift back into Stephen King's classic prose, but he's still holding on to the Faulknerian esoteric style, and so it got me tripped up because the style was not very consistent to me. It slowly like diluted, mixing with King's normal style, and it just made for a really weird read because you go from a very solidified, this is how it is. It has a personality in its own way in the beginning, but as you go through, it starts like having an identity crisis in its like switching between the two. It's like, pick a side. If it picked a side, I feel like I would have liked it more. And also, it just gets a little repetitive and tedious at points. I was really perplexed by this, and I guess this leads me to my, I don't know, conclusion. What the flip did I just read, and is it worth it to read the other ones? Because I have to say I'm intrigued. I've heard the other ones are really, really great. I hope they're better, because this is probably the weakest Stephen King book I've ever read. That's not to say it's bad. It's just, for Stephen King, this was a little bit of a weak one. He was trying a lot of new things here, and I respect that, but not necessarily successes on all fronts there. I am being a little hard on this book. I actually kind of enjoyed it. I read it pretty quick. It was a quick read. I was intrigued to keep reading it, so it was definitely entertaining and encapsulating. I want to know, is The Dark Tower worth it? For people who have read The Dark Tower, my two favorite books by Stephen King are Misery and Billy Summers so far. Yeah, I know, The Stand isn't first. I'm sorry, guys. But I love those books so much. I absolutely adore them. If I like those books, will I enjoy the rest of the Dark Tower series? I'm editing this right now, and I realized I forgot to do Art of the Week. Gran Torino by Clint Eastwood. This is not Gran Turismo, the racing movie. Very different film. This movie is amazing. It stars Clint Eastwood, this man named Walt, who is basically this old, bitter, racist man who's a veteran of the Korean War. His neighbors are Koreans, so there's already some conflict there. And it's basically just about his relationship with one of the younger Korean men. What happens from there? Fabulous movie, so heartfelt. It's just amazing. One of my favorite movies ever. I love it so much. Go watch it, because it's a freaking banger. And yeah, that's Art of the Week. Back to the review. But so I enjoyed the esoteric style. I wasn't on board with the inconsistency of it. You kind of have to go all in or nothing, I feel like, with that style, because there's a certain vagueness to it that works when it's working, but when you try to mix it with Stephen King's kind of open with how your characters are feeling, that vague quality that he was going for starts to muddy the experience and just kind of make for a weird, unsatisfying read at some points. So I'm just curious, is the rest of the books worth reading? Because although I'm not a big fantasy guy, this book really interests me. It created a little open-mindedness around fantasy, and I'm maybe considering it now. I'm like, maybe I'll read book 2, because I've heard it gets really good at book 2, and I just want to know, as a Stephen King fan, will I enjoy the rest of the Dark Tower series? Because yeah, I am definitely interested, but I'm not sure. Is the whole thing good? I've heard it teeters off after book 4. I've heard the last 3 books are rushed. I don't know. Is it his magnum opus? I want to know. I want you Stephen King fans in the comments. Tell me. Do you think I should keep reading it? Is it worth to continue? Is it better than The Gunslinger? Honestly, I'm glad I read it. I think it's a pretty interesting look into his bibliography. Anyways, that's about it. Let me know in the comments. Have a great day. Have a great life. And hopefully I will see you next week. I really don't know anymore, because I have been so busy with school. So yeah. Adios, amigos.